skies. All hope seems to die when he sees your eyes running through the night. Only takes him back, always out of sight, crowding through the night. Run, you can run, but you'll never hide. The walls are coming, you're running. The walls are coming, you're running. The walls are coming, you're running. The walls are coming.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 359 of the Always Wolves podcast. And tonight it is extra time, the final word on the weekend's action. And goodness me, there's so much to talk about this weekend. I've called it, have we paid the penalty? And this has got a bit of a double meaning, triple meaning. Have we paid the penalty for how poor our tactics were, or how poor the players were? Obviously, we conceded 3 penalties, or is it, have we paid a penalty for Gary O'Neill's lineup as well, and how he set the play? So there's lots of analogies that we can dip into in and out of that. There is a poll that is running tonight. Who's to blame for that Bournemouth performance? I'll split it into 3. Is it purely Gary O'Neill? Is it purely the players, or is it both? Going to be interesting to say. We're going to be debating that because I've seen on social a lot of people, obviously, you know, we talked about it last week with Gary O'Neill. It was a terrible performance. It was almost Brentford-like. A lot of people, again, this week are like, it was just papering over the cracks. The cracks have shone through. It's all Gary O'Neill. Some people have been saying, well, do you know, you can't really blame him for the defensive mistakes that the players were making. And obviously there's also an argument, well, he sends them out to play that way, or is it a mixture of both? So join in if you can jump over onto YouTube, whether you're watching this on Twitter X, Facebook, or YouTube, jump over onto YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join in the poll. And then we'll get our producer, Emma, that will give us regular updates in the chat on where the poll is. And I'm sure hopefully she'll WhatsApp me as well. And then we're going to obviously be breaking down the performance rating, man of the match, all of that sort of stuff, things that people want to say about the game or Wolves in general. We're going to look ahead to that midweek game, the final match Wolves will ever play at Goodison, unless, of course, we draw them in the FA Cup, which could happen. But definitely the final Premier League match against them. And then we're going to save your questions up for the end. We've already got over 308 of you watching. Let me know in the chat where in the world you are watching from, and I'll put some of them on the screen. I'm going to introduce my guests now. We have returning after a little while. He got in touch today. We've got young Liam that's joining us. Welcome to Extra Time, Liam.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. Hope everyone's okay.
Fantastic. That's absolutely great to have you on, and looking forward to hearing what you've got to say, because you reached out today and wanted to come on. We've also got returning after seems forever, but he is like, I'm sure he's got a lot to say, and that is Craig Tuber Wolves. How you doing?
Hello, Dave. Hi, guys. Hello, everybody at home. Absolutely thrilled, of course. Really thrilled seeing my team get whopped again, as we all are, I'm sure.
Well, to be honest, mate, I'm really glad if you're watching this live that because you've obviously just you've just finished composing your latest masterpiece on the piano behind.
Absolutely.
Again, I know we had to make sure that we started this after 8:30 at night, because you work on your composing up until around about 8 o'clock. So it's great to have you on.
Thanks,
all the way from Southampton, who brought up yesterday, I think, one of his relations from Bournemouth to watch Wolves lose to Bournemouth back in Southampton. It is Boston Brian. How you doing, mate?
All right, Dave. It was actually my son and my grandson. 3 generations there yesterday. My son and my grandson live in Bournemouth.
They live in Bournemouth, don't they?
Yeah, they do, yeah. And
he was looking forward to the win, so your grandson could wear his shirt at school.
He was, yeah. He'll still wear his shirt though. He's hard enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we have coming back this week as well. Lewis is back on the channel with us this week. Hi, Lewis. How you doing, mate? Your sounds, or you're on mute.
Sorry, Dave. I'm all okay. Yeah.
Hi, mate. You're right.
Yeah. Often the obvious. Yeah, I'm okay.
Fantastic. Well, it's going to be interesting because you were quite strong last week talking about Gary O'Neill and piping in over the cracks. I do want to start the evening, of course, as always, saying a massive, big thank you to the guys and gals over at Creation Wolf for powering extra time. They deliver the industry's latest and most advanced digital solutions. If you've got a company, and I know they're working with 3 or 4 Wolves fans that have got companies, they'll take your brand, online presence, and digital capabilities to the next level. You can find them in the description below, creationwolf.com. And, you know, they really support the channel. So we're very, very grateful for that. Just looking into the chat on where we've got some people watching from. We've got Steve is in Ontario, in Canada. Absolutely fantastic. We've got Trudy down in Cornwall. Chris is in Lanzarote. Adrian says he's in hell after yesterday, which is quite good. And then we've got, let's have a look through here. We've got Paul Harris wants to know if Tuba can get a tune out of Wolves, which is quite a nice put. I like that. We've got North Wales in the house. King Swinford. I just love. Oh, look at this. Melbourne, Australia. This is what amazes me. We've got such a great community. Canada, Australia, you know, Wolverhampton, Cornwall. And, we just, you know, another one in Melbourne here in Australia, Portugal. We have got Bilston, of course, in. We've got to have Bilston, the centre of the No universe. We've got Cleethorpes in the house. Dave's in Ireland as well. And if you see the little wolf heads next to the name, guys, that means that they're an Always Wolves team member, and they've subscribed to become channel members, and obviously get a few little perks as well as the private group. Look, guys, 440 live in the chat. We are going to go first of all over to hear what Liam has to say. Now, Liam, you might have to speak up a little bit because I think your mic was a bit quiet. Yeah, you're quite quiet, so lean in if you can and speak up.
This laptop, mate, I'm telling you, 2024 and technology's just not as advanced as I'd want it to be. Because my camera's blurry, my mic's done.
Yeah, much better, closer to the mic. What did you want to say? Because you've got in touch to say you wanted to call into the phone in. Let's hear what you have to say first of all.
Well, I can guarantee what I've got to say is practically the same as what everybody else has got to say. It was an absolute calamity yesterday. I'm sick and tired of watching games this season, like Chelsea, like Brentford, and obviously like yesterday, Bournemouth. I feel like we're too much of an emotional side. We can't, play normally in a sense. That might sound quite dramatic, but you take it yesterday. I think the biggest moment for me was when it was 3-1. Strang Larsen scores again to make it 3-2. And almost immediately after, we gave the ball away. One of our most experienced players as well, Craig Dawson. And I think that could play as the part. He didn't look entirely fit yesterday. But immediately straight after, we gave away another penalty, which was the
like
third.
We did against Liverpool, exactly the same.
Precisely. I'm sick and tired of watching football games like this. And I'd argue last week against Fulham, I think, like Louis said, I did think he kind of papered over the cracks a little bit. I think the scoreline flattered us last week against Fulham, because if Anderson didn't go off, I really doubt we would have scored those next 2 goals and make it 4-1. But saying that, I think O'Neill got it right last week. I think he got it completely wrong this week. As to who to blame, I think obviously you can't blame O'Neill for what the defensive mistakes, but you can certainly blame him for playing Lamina at centre-back when there's Santi Bueno and Craig Dawson on the bench. And obviously at the end he did say Bueno and Sarabia weren't fit enough to start, but Craig Dawson, he could have. But I think I saw something Bournemouth are quick on the ball, so he opts to go with Lamina. But then that doesn't make much sense to me because he's banging on about how much, how direct Bournemouth are, the long balls are going to be playing, how physical they are as well. It's going to be a physical test. So you can't justify playing Lamina in a back four next to Totti Gomez. And you can kind of say it worked against Fulham, but I think we got let off. I wasn't entirely, convinced by them two in a partnership because we just looked disorganised. I didn't see that back four and think, yeah, this is the way we should be going for. I fully expected either Craig Dawson or Santi Bueno to come straight back into the team. So I just didn't agree with the lineup at all yesterday. And if I'm being as positive as possible, I think we've got a proper number 9 in Strand Larsen.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's such a shame that we've finally brought in the striker that we've needed, but the season that happens, we forget how to defend, and I think that's the only issue we've got. Going forwards, we're absolutely fine because we're scoring the same amount of goals, but I think we're on the same amount of goals as City at the minute. We're up there in the leaderboards of scoring. It's just defensively, I think we've conceded the most goals.
We've turned into Leeds.
Yeah, I mean, we've completely flipped the script from what we used to be. We could never score, but we could defend. Like we've completely flipped the script. And I think as for O'Neill, I've said it to a couple of people in the past couple of weeks. I think he is the man to keep us up. But if we want to push on, if we want to go, and push for top of the table, obviously not the top. I mean top half. Then I don't think he is. We could be ended up in a situation like Bournemouth were when they got rid of him. They took a risk, brought in Iriola, and look at them. Look at them yesterday. If that's the level for 11th or 12th, where does that leave us? Because they outclassed us completely.
Well, we're in the bottom 3.
Exactly, but with the team we've got, and you look at our team, you look at Bournemouth's team. On paper, our team is miles ahead of theirs. It should be.
Well, interesting you should say that. I was having a conversation with the producer today, and we were saying exactly the same thing. Obviously, it's the old adage, isn't it? You don't play football on paper, and it's all about the coaching. It's all about the coaching. I believe that we have a lot of quality players. I think we've got an array of talent at our disposal, especially in the forward areas. I do think mistakes were made in the summer window in terms of the defensive things. I've said this all along. I think most fans agree with that. And before the game yesterday, I kind of like an understanding that both Santiago Bueno, Dawson would be available to play. Gary O'Neill pretty much said so at the press conference on the Friday. They're all good.
Yeah.
So I was, and Gary O'Neill talked a lot about how Bournemouth are going to be a different test, the physical side. They're going to play the long balls. They're very direct. They've got one of the best pressing teams in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And he plays Lamina at centre back. Now, I said before I tweeted out, is this a genius stroke or a gamble, or is it that he didn't want to drop Lamina and he wanted to keep Andre in the team, and that's why he kept him in? Because my thinking on it is, well, I can get Andre, Lamina, and Gomez all into the same team, and we've seen when they try and do that, it never seems to work. So
yeah, I've seen a couple of comments as well saying about O'Neill wouldn't be able to keep us up. I personally think he will, because it seems he hasn't lost the dressing room yet, as what we can see.
Well, that's actually interestingly debatable, because the stuff I've heard that I'll talk a little bit about. It's only rumour, but I think I personally think you started to see the cracks starting to show yesterday with Jose Sarr and the South Bank. Now, the guy that was giving him abuse was, and the South Bank rallied behind Jose, but there's frustration bubbling under the surface there, and stuff like that. We will talk about that incident later on in the thing. So, Liam, for you, you still think Gary O'Neill is going to keep us up?
I personally think he will. And I know the the past couple of months, especially the back end of last season, it doesn't look good for him. But I think he is the type of manager that will just in time get results and keep us up. I could be being optimistic, but for me, he's still got. Obviously, I don't know anything that's going on behind the scenes, but from what it seems to the naked eye, it looks like the players are still trying to play for him. Every goal they're going to, not every goal, but most goals they're going over to him, giving him a hug. For me, I just think it's still savable for him, especially with the players. But I think he'll be able to do enough to keep us up. However, what I will say, you look at that team when we got promoted with Nuno. If you look, we've got a lot of talent now. Don't get me wrong, we've got a lot of talent. But how many of our players now would get into that promoted side? For me, Cunha's one, Aiton Nori and Dawson at a push. Maybe not at a push, but Dawson. That's only 3 for me.
Joe Gomez, Strand Larson, none of them.
Neither of the Jimenez, Neves, Moutinho, they don't.
Yeah.
They're levels above them. And that's the team that's just came up from the Championship. We have been a established team for the last 6 years or 7.
Okay, Liam. Well, let's park that for a minute because you've obviously had quite a bit to start with. And let's now, I'm parking Lewis and Boston in the just waiting because they've spoken a lot recently. Brian on the match reaction, Lewis last week, and we haven't heard from Craig for quite a time. Craig, you've definitely got a frown that's upside down at the moment. So, like, I'd like to hear your take on where you're at. You haven't, obviously, you've been away. You've had a lot of things going on, and all that sort of stuff. But you've been watching every game. You've been following it. Where are you at now? 13 games into the season. Obviously, we got 8 points from the last 4, but we only got 1 from the first 8. And obviously, after that performance yesterday, where are you at? What points would you like to make?
Oh gosh, where'd you start? When you are conceding 5 and 4 goals, 3 goals, and you're shrugging your shoulders because that's what you expect, you're in major trouble. And when we are attacked, and even the games that we won, we were outplayed by Saints. We were absolutely out in that first half. We were outplayed, and our defensive structure is diabolical. It is absolutely appalling. And our coach, if that's what you can call him, because the guy's a numpty. Liam, I cannot disagree with you enough. You've got every right to your opinion, and you know that, and we'll never get aggressive about it. But that bloke is clueless. We stood at the back of the goal away at Notts Forest, Dave, and saw the tallest guy on the opposition have a free header. How many times have we seen opposition players, big players, free in the box, knocking the ball into our net with not a Wolves player within a yard of them? That is defensive. That is coaching. I think that their zonal marking, our back 3 or our back 4 haven't got a chance because our midfield are chaotic. They are fantastic going forward. They've got talent and they love attacking, but they don't do the dirty work well. We have a midfield for like a fiddler's elbow. There's no structure to them, so that when teams attack us, they get through 3, 4, 5 of our players with one simple ball, and that is why we're giving up so many chances. I've watched structure. I've tried to analyse what's going wrong, and it's when we haven't got the ball. Our team are not coached. They cannot be coached to be that chaotic on the field, and hence why we are giving up so many goals. Secondly, players make mistakes when they don't know what they're doing, when they're not clear about what their job is. And this lot, in my view, they are absolutely unclear about what they're doing. So when they get the ball, there's always doubt in the minds. They don't know what the teammates are going to be where on the pitch they need to play the ball. This is squarely on Gon and his coaching staff. And Jeff Shee, the moron that he is, and he's a moron. And if you're watching Jeff, sod off back to China, right? He sacked Nuno with a 45% win rate. And this idiot that's in charge of us now has got the lowest win rate of the last 7 managers we've had, 33%. And so people talk about oh well, give him a chance and he'll like to keep us up. How many games are you going to give him? We're now talking about is it 3 wins now in 25 games? How many games do you give a guy when we haven't got the ball? We are in absolute chaos. And how long do you let that go for?
Is 33%. I can feel your anger, Craig.
I'm livid because we are sleepwalking into the abyss, and there are people who supposedly are in that club that know about soccer, and they do not, because when we haven't got the ball, we are in absolute chaos. And that's been going on for 22, 23, 24 games. So it's not the last 3 or 4 games. This now is a trend.
Well, we've got Large there was 37%, so that you are right that he has got a worse win rate than things.
He's clueless, Dave. He talks a good game, right? And again, why can't our coaches coach the press? When every team that presses us at their Wolves, they panic us and they get a result. We cannot play the press, and we haven't been able to play it for 3 or 4 seasons.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. We're going to come back onto this. Brian, obviously, just give you a little bit of background on Grime. Brian's a little bit of he's been involved in the game. You were part of Southampton Football Club. You worked in their academy for many years. So, you've coached, you've been in and around a Premier League club. You're quite analytical when you're watching games, and you always talk things. But so, what's your observations?
Yeah, just clarify that, Dave. I've got a coaching certificate, but I never coached at Southampton.
Okay.
I actually drove a minibus at the academy, but
I
worked.
Sorry, I thought you did some coaching as well.
I did. I worked with the coaches. I used to sit with the coaches, and there was a guy who actually works for the FA now. He was the second in charge, and I used to spend a lot of time with him, and we used to talk about different aspects of the game, because like I say, I got a coach.
You spent a lot of time around Southampton Academy.
But yeah. I think my record was probably about 12 games that I went to in a 5-day period.
Yeah.
So I have seen an awful lot of football, mainly at youth level, but first team and under 21s and that, under 18s. But anyway, just clarify that. But yesterday, I mean, I've just prior to coming on just now, I was just looking at the extended highlights again on the Wolves channel, and have a look at the first goal. I mean, it's fundamental bad defending.
Right.
It's I learned this at school. It was a flat. It couldn't have been a flatter back 4. Even when we went. I'm old enough. I don't know how old you are, Craig, but my first game was in 1965 when I was 10 years old. So it's 59 years next week, I think. And I went through earlier days. I went through the transition for playing, because we did used to play 3 at the back, believe it or not. In those days, it was a set. They call it the W formation. And then the 1966 World Cup, Alf Ramsey had this no wingers policy. And he had 4 at the back, with a big centre half and Bobby Moore playing alongside him as essentially like a sweeper, yeah. But one was left, one was right. But what we'd do is one would go and one would drop. It wasn't like that, like a flat line. But you have a look at that first goal. Lamina was exposed there. I mean, that ball came from the left back position for Bournemouth. It had a long time in the air, you know, and it still went over his head. And that's why Totti gave the penalty away, because he had to cover behind Lamina, and he's then going in with his weak foot, you know, his right foot. You know, okay, you can say that it was a bit rash and he should have maybe left it to, the guy to have a shot and see if Saul could save it, you know, because he was going wide, you know. But it was a calamity from the start. And I think, you know, we were euphoric last week, Dave. You and I were euphoric after the Fulham game, and it was, we didn't even realise that they'd gone down to 10 men, didn't we?
Not
Last week, until a lot of that time, and we were given that reaction, you know. But that was only the last 2 goals anyway. We did play well.
Because obviously there was no red card, was there, or anything like that, and you played his 5, so it was kind of like it wasn't announced or anything like that. So
yeah, exactly. But the thing was what I was going to say was last week. I mean, we saw the lineup. We were terrified. We thought, oh God, you know, they're going to rip us apart, you know, and we got away with it, really. You know, I mean, you know, Gary O'Neill said on the Friday press conference that although Wayno had an injury, he was available, and Dawson was available, and they weren't even in the squad in the end. Now that may have been a bright move, you know, in the fact that he didn't give Fulham chance to think, well, what formation they're going to play, you know, right? But this week, that Bournemouth manager is very, very astute. He's very astute, and he probably coached them to play against that same team that we played there last week, because they focused on Lamina. That first half,
targeted him.
They're coming at him all the time, you know, and I just thought, but to be honest, after 16 minutes, when we give them 2 penalties away, which there were penalties, you can't argue about that. I know in the crowd, we were all saying, you know, Premier League corruptors, whatever.
No, they were 100%. The first one was a little bit soft, but it was his knee, and you know, the Jose Sarr one, it's a penalty. The guy's nicked the ball, he's kicked the back of his foot. It's a penalty. It's soft, but it's a penalty.
And the appeals we had for penalties, the Rodrigo one, you know, but the one on Kuhn, of course, bloody hell, you can't go challenging in the air. I mean, that was never a penalty. And you can't blame the referee. We were the architects of our own downfall, weren't we, really? I mean, it wasn't just the back 4. As Craig said, it was. I mean, Gomez gave the ball away for the second goal, all right? And what I've noticed about Gomez yesterday, a lot of people saying he was man of the match. What my man of the match, I tell you. A number of times I actually saw him lose the ball and just amble back. He wasn't busting a gut to get back. Where Kuna, I mean, it wasn't Kuna's best game, but sometimes when he lost the ball, he was chasing back and trying to win the ball back. And he did win the ball back a lot of times. But Gomez, I mean, for a midfield player, you know, I think him and Andre yesterday was probably their worst games for us, really. Yeah. I mean, you asked me, David, like after the game, didn't you? You said he was your man of the match. I mean, you can't give it to Larson, couldn't you? Because I think everybody else was a 4 at the most. You know, wasn't it really? I mean, I don't blame Sarr for the last penalty. That was Dawson's fault. I mean,
no, absolutely.
It wasn't Sarr's fault.
You know, he was. He maybe didn't need to throw himself in, but then you try to win the ball, you know.
I was right in line with that because I had my family with me. I had to move my seat, and we were in the lower, in the lower steeple, almost on the halfway line, but more towards the south bank. But I was right in line with it, and as soon as it left Dawson's foot, you could see it was going wide of Sarr. You know, it wasn't going straight to him. I mean, in that situation there, it should be. I mean, that's another thing we used to learn at school. Man. You played you were a goalkeeper, Craig. I mean, you know. If you play the ball back to the goalkeeper, you never played it back between the sticks, did you? You know, you always played to one side or the other. But I think he'd lost confidence in hitting it with his left, so he tried to hit it straight at him, and it went miles to his right, miles. You know, and you thought, oh my God, that's the first hat trick of penalties for 70 years. in the top division. 70 years.
No, since the 50s. Well, this is what Wolves do. We just like making records, don't we?
Yeah.
You know.
And that Evan Nilsson, he was involved in every penalty.
I know.
Right.
He was,
Dave,
I
can
want to get loose. I want to get Lewis in, but go on.
Yeah. Can I only want to ask you made a really good point there about Gone. Name a manager in the Premiership that he can outthink or he has outthought.
According to Gary O'Neill, he outthought Pep Guardiola last year. He went on Monday Night Football and told everyone how he outthought him, didn't he?
This season, what about?
I know, but I'm just saying he went on to Monday Night Football and told everyone how he'd beaten Pep Guardiola, which at the time it did probably help turn the fans in his favour. But Lewis, let's see you.
Can I just say one more thing? In a lot of ways, that performance yesterday was worse than the Brentford game, which I thought was, I'd change it at the Brentford game. I said, you may have to go. But that performance yesterday was worse than that.
Well, I only gave it a 2.
Apart from the two goals, which were very good goals, those goals were very good that we scored yesterday. Apart from that, we never looked like we were going to score.
No, the second goal that we scored came out of absolutely. It was almost like the Fulham game. It's like we didn't look like we were going to score, then we scored. And Guedes did incredibly well. He stayed on his feet. Larson made the run and he finished it. Lewis, you've waited really, really patiently. I want to get you to come in now because you were on our panel last week. Obviously, we'd come off the back of unbeaten in 4, 2 draws, 2 wins. Euphoric win away against Fulham that no one really thought. And at that point then, you, even despite all of that, you were like, Dave, I'll get rid of him still tonight. And here we are a week later, almost like Prophet Lewis. Here we are, back to almost the same situation. Almost exactly what you were saying last week has come to pass this week. Phil, give us a little bit more insight on where you're at now.
Yeah, and obviously I looked through the comments from last week's video, Dave, and me and Chris, we received a lot of stick for what we were saying, but I think that if yesterday's game showed exactly what we were saying. Anyone can win one game, especially like you said, when Fulham go down to 10 men and nobody seems to know about it. And Anderson is a very good defender as well, who went off. He's a fantastic player. So it was, I think, people who are so reactive, I think sometimes, Dave, it's very easy to be like that, especially when you've had such a tough period for the months prior to that run of 4 games. It's like, wow, this is it now. We're back, after such a long period of poor performances and poor results as well. It's easy to feel like, okay, that's it. We're here now, but it's too reactive. I think you have to always really look at the bigger picture and see, well, what else is happening in relation to what's going on. So, like I said, in the Fulham game, they're going down to 10 men and losing their best defender. It's not a surprise to me that we go and score after he goes off. There's not enough there for me, Dave. And I think Tubber and Brian spoke about it with Lamina. It's okay to surprise a manager, and sometimes that will really play into your advantage. Lamina worked very well at centre-back last week, but the Bournemouth manager is not a stupid man. He's not going to ignore the Fulham game, and he would have studied out the way we played, why we won, and he would have said if Lamina is there again, he's a big weakness because he's a midfielder playing in centre-back. I also want to say that this is something I spoke with my granddad about, Dave, They looked also at Sarr, because every time Sarr got the ball passed back to him, that their striker, who I thought played very well, straight away chasing him down. And, I think Brian said they won 3 penalties through him. That Bournemouth, all they did was look at our weaknesses, which are very obvious, and we're able to exploit them. And as Tubber said, it's our manager's fault for not responding in the game. He's so persistent in asking the players to play a style of football they are incapable of playing. And part of that is, should be the players' responsibility, because yesterday's performance was unacceptable. I don't think it should just be Gary from yesterday. The players were very disappointing for the large part. Obviously, Cunha was ineffective, but I think that was partly because of Bournemouth's good play with him and the way they dealt with him. Aït-Nouri as well, obviously a big attacking threat for us. He was handled. Strand Larson did well with his 2 goals. I thought they were very good goals.
He was brave, especially with a header. And to be fair, it was a great delivery from Bellegarde. Bellegarde gets a lot of stick off people, but he's a trier, and he picked out a great ball. It was a great cross.
Yeah, and this is the big disappointing thing to me, Dave, that we have the recruitment team, I think, have done a good job at finding individual players of quality. Yeah. And it's something I spoke about last week about how generally the recruitment has been, I think, poor in terms of the big picture, how the team looks as a team. But individually, you'd say that they're good players. I think Bellegarde is a terrible player for Wolves, the way he plays as a Wolves player. Yeah. But if you put him in a different side, I think he's a very technically good player and he would probably excel. Yeah. I think Matt Hobbs is as a sporting director, he's not that. He's a good scout. He can find players who are parts of the bigger picture. He can find pieces of the jigsaw. But then when it comes to putting it together to make the big picture, he fails so badly. And that's the centre-back situation sums that up perfectly for me. I mean, yesterday when we had the ball, the back 3, which Gary had asked them to play, Aït-Nouri went very wide but very deep. Totti in the middle and Semedo on the right. I don't understand, Dave. I don't get how Aït-Nouri, who's not even a left back, he's a left wing back, maybe even a right winger. He's playing at centre back, and I don't understand why the recruitment staff have let it get to that point. But then also, I don't understand why Gary, who had options, decided to play that. There's just so much going on, and it's something that me and Chris were speaking about last week. And obviously, after the win, everybody wants to ignore this, I think, and it's a big mistake.
Well, like you say, you have to think deeper, and you were very, very good with how you put things across last week. I said, like myself, after I've like asked for patience because of what happened at the end of last year, because thing. But like Brentford was it for me. And then obviously we get the late goals against Brighton, we get another draw, we get the win against Southampton, and then we win against Fulham. And we thought, oh, well, maybe, because obviously we haven't had a lot to cheer about. And he bought himself a bit. And then, like, you come into the Bournemouth game and you think, right, we've got ourselves into a good position now. We win this game, we start to pull away. It was a massive opportunity. Bournemouth, they're a good side. They've got a really good coach. And you could see how really well they were cohesive. They knew when to press. They had energy. They knew where to target, when to target, and they took their chances. And when they needed to defend, well, we opened them up a couple of times, which is great. But this is Bournemouth. This is Bournemouth, who basically had lost their previous 2 games. I think they've got a terrible record away from home this year as well. We've conceded 3 goals. And by the way, even before the penalty, they should have had a third, because the guy hit it. It was a cross, and he was in the middle of the 6-yard box, and he hit it straight at Sarr. And it was like we didn't look like a bunch of individuals. And the Bournemouth fan Kirk came on when we first. I interviewed him. He got a little bit of stick, and he said that Gary O'Neill will get results based off moments of brilliance from individual players. He said he relies on moments of brilliance from like Cunha and things like that. And to be fair, a lot of what he said back then, last season we went on the thing in injuries, but you can see it.
It's what I said last week, Dave, sorry to interrupt, about the Fulham goal from Cunha, the 2, and obviously the Southampton goal. I'm sorry to interrupt, Dave, but it's exactly like me and Chris were saying. It's the moments that he has no control over as a manager. It's up to Cunha to score that goal. He hasn't necessarily put Cunha in maybe he's told Cunha to find the space there, but he's relying on Cunha being able to finish that.
Yeah.
It's not there, Dave. I'm sorry to interrupt. You can carry on.
No, interrupt. Come in. You didn't really interrupt. It was a good time to come in. We're going to continue this conversation, but first of all, we're going to hear from a couple of international fans. I haven't watched these videos. We've got Asia from Italy. We've got Dave from New York, but I think he might be in Hawaii because he does travel about a bit. Let's hear from Asia.
Reaction as short as possible. So,
here we go.
Hi everyone on Extra Time, Asa from Parma here, trying to keep this reaction as short as possible. So as I said before, and as I will say till the end of my day, I do not like our manager. Even though we got 6 points out of 6, it felt like it was a rainbow in the dark, because we are still like walking in the dark. I really do not understand it. I do not understand players' selections and players' positioning. Players that got to only play like for 10 or 15 minutes when we are already in big, deep troubles since the very start. And yeah, we cannot defend. We simply cannot defend, as simple as that, period. And also, if we could just stop playing the victims sometimes and take our responsibilities for our incompetence. Incompetence, yeah, I think so. Yeah, the referee, VAR and stuff, but conceding 3 penalties. Okay, 1, 2, but 3 penalties for extremely silly mistakes. No, a very big disappointment. One of the most horrible games I've ever seen. And we're playing against Everton in 3 days, so what can I say? Good luck. See you.
For the Thanksgiving holiday. Today, David New York Wolves here, coming to you from Honolulu. Last couple of days for the Thanksgiving holiday. Well, where do we start? Just when you thought it was safe to relax, when you thought maybe we'd put the shakiness behind us and the suicidal defending behind us, that happens. Let's be honest, you give away 3 penalties in a Premier League game, you probably don't deserve any points, do you? And the most frustrating part was, like I said, we'd looked like we turned a corner, looked like we got our confidence back, looked like we were being solid. I think at first I thought, okay, it makes sense that Lamina's stood in defence, keep the same lineup. They played really well at Fulham, so why wouldn't they continue playing well today? And then, the first penalty, I guess Totti was a little rash, but then the second and third were just crazy. Sarr's fault on the second one, Dawson's fault honestly on the third, right? But we kept fighting. That's the positive, is we fought back. Great goal from Larson, great header. We kept at it. I thought at half time, I was hoping we'd get one back before half time, so we had the whole second half to get the third back. But I thought, if we get one here, we're good enough going forward where we can get a point out of this. And we just get our second, and all of a sudden, boom, there we go. So these defensive lapses have got to stop. It's easy for us to say, right? I don't know how you do that, but you've just got to. We can't keep giving stupid goals away. Certainly not 3 of them. And I think if we can tighten up at the back, we'll be fine, because we've got enough power going forward. Not the end of the world today. We knew it was going to be a bumpy ride. I guess we're not going to transform into a solid defensive team overnight. It is going to take a while. So a bump in the road. Hopefully, next match at West Ham. Hopefully they don't fire their manager after today and get a new manager bounce when they play us. That always seems to happen with us, doesn't it? But we'll see. We've still got another few games coming up where we can pick up some points. Shane Palace got that point at the end, otherwise we'd still be out of the bottom 3. But it's going to be a while. We knew we weren't going to be safe overnight, so we need to keep at it and keep pushing. I'm sorry, there's a guy sitting in the Starbucks right here, right on the back of his shirt. It's some company called O'Neill. Thanks for that, but sorry, that's just great. I will leave it at that. Up the Wolves.
That is just brilliant. That's just brilliant. Now, guys, we always try and support good fundraising events here and charities, and a good friend of mine, Carl Faulkner, he's asked me to just do a little bit of promotion for him on some charity stuff that he's doing. He does charity calendars called the Shirt of Two Halves. These are the calendars, and if you look through, they've got different shirts on either side through there, and it gives you an example on the back of all the shirts. So there's one for every month of the year. So it's got the home and the away shirt, and it's in aid of pancreatic cancer, and as you can see, Birmingham Children's Hospital. So look, they're £10. Every penny is split between pancreatic cancer and Birmingham Children's Hospital. And if you want to get hold of one of these calendars, you can get a hold of Carl either on Facebook, Carl Faulkner, which is spelled Falconer, or he's on Twitter X as Cosley Wolf, or as Instagram again on Carl Faulkner. As I say, they're charity calendars. They are really beautifully made. You can look at this, that you've got there, and they're tenner, and they all go towards Birmingham Children's Hospital and pancreatic cancer. So get in touch with Carl, Cosley Wolf on X, or Carl Faulkner on Facebook or Instagram, and it's Falconer. Right, Liam, I just want to come back to you now, because you've heard obviously what everyone else has to say. Anything that you want to come back on that, and then I also want to sort of ask you about your man of the match and your your Liam Windows man of the match, your Foxit Shipley performance rating. And if there's anything that made you smile, because we have the Parkside Dental Care moment that made you smile on the day, and it could be just a bag of chips.
It could be. Yeah, I don't think I didn't really have a good meal yesterday. I had a terrible day yesterday. Actually, I was meant to go play football, and there was no pitches, so I was driving around Wolverhampton all morning, and then I went to watch Bournemouth, and then we lost 4-2. So there wasn't much to smile about yesterday. But as of what everyone else has said, I can almost echo all of it, really. What confuses me is kind of what's went wrong since last season, because you can say what you want about O'Neill. Last season, for the majority of the season, obviously I think injuries near the end of it really affected what happened. But for the majority of last season, he did a good job. He got the most out of players like Neto. He got the most out of Cunha. He's got a lot of talent, and I think you said, a Bournemouth fan said when we appointed him, he does rely on individual talent, and I think that's, first of all, I think that's true. At times yesterday, it felt like we were all just waiting for Cunha to do something, like nudging him, go on, mate, go do something. But that moment never came, and I think Bournemouth was so good yesterday that they pressed. The way they pressed, we couldn't handle it. With Totti Gomez and Lamina, I think I've said it multiple times on different platforms. Totti Gomez's best position at the back four for me is left back. He's not the best centre back in the defensive two. He's very good in the back three. I guess Lamina's. O'Neill said Lamina's good at centre back in the back three. I've never seen him play centre back in the back three, but he probably knows more than me about where he plays. So they just highlighted our weaknesses. Literally the first minute, what O'Neill said the day before in his press conference about how Bournemouth would play, that is exactly what we saw from Bournemouth. So you'd hope, as a manager, you'd hope he'd be able to, work around it, and combat Bournemouth. But Bournemouth was so good. Their striker was really good. They've got a really, really good team. But that's not me. That's not me trying to say, their win is just, we were terrible. We were absolutely terrible. There's a lot of players out there on the pitch that had one of their worst performances in a Wolves shirt. I think João Gomez and Andre, they didn't have the best game at all. And I think apart from Larson, you're going to ask me my man of the match, but I think Larson was lost. You can see, I think there was a moment when we conceded that third penalty for their fourth goal. He's just dropped down to his knees because he's he's worked so hard. He's fought to get back into the game. I think when Guedes came on, it really helped because Guedes was quite good yesterday. And Larson, Larson did very well with his 2 goals. He just fell down to his knees. I felt like that was what the whole stadium was feeling. Like, we've just got a goal, the momentum's coming back, the fans have, got a bit more excited again, and then all of a sudden we've just shot ourselves in the foot, and we've done that way too much this season, and that needs to stop completely. But you think defensively, even when we have Totti Gomez, Dawson, and Santi Breno at the back, we still struggle. I think it is the structure. And going back on my point about O'Neill keeping us up, I think going back on what the Bournemouth fan said as well, he will keep us up purely because of the talent we've got. Cunha and Stranraer, the attack we have, for me personally, it will keep us up. This is by no means am I saying O'Neill is the same level manager as we should have, because this squad deserves a better manager. But I think just by the pure quality we've got, it will be enough to keep us up. There will be 3 teams worse than us. Quality.
Liam, can I ask you a question?
Go on.
Right now, if you're the chairman, are you really willing to gamble that you think he will keep us up? Because we've got a squad of players that should be under the better coaching, top 10. If you've got the opportunity to swap it out for, I don't know, someone else that could come in, maybe a Potter, a Moyes, or a Conceição, and you've got the opportunity to have one of those 3, would you keep him or would you swap it?
Personally, I've been I've been quite supportive of O'Neill, but if it was me, I'd probably swap him now. Not now, but because I think it's a very, very, the fixtures are quite cramped together. You'd be putting a new manager. It's a very difficult time to come in and get results immediately. But I would swap him in general, because I've said that multiple times. I would swap him in general, but I do think he would be able to keep us up. That's not me saying he's a good enough manager, especially for the squad.
No, Liam, and do you know what? It's really good because look, it's you've got the convictions of your belief. I mean, I've been there with Gary O'Neill. I don't want to be saying personally sack the manager. I'm quite a patient, tolerant person. I look at what happened last year, the injuries. I look at the start. You make allowances. He had a lot of credit in the bank for coming in with 3 days' notice with with Floppategi going out and coming in. You know what I mean? And he did really, really well. So he had a lot. He built up a lot of credit with the fans, and we were all happy. And like a lot, even Sutty came on here and said he's got to have a new contract. He's got to be given a new contract. Well, he did, but I think 4 years was a bit naive that they're giving him a 4-year contract. So look, he had a lot of credit in the bank, and that credit has gradually and it's gone down faster for some fans than it has for others. Some fans, it's gone really, really quick. Fans like myself, it's took a little bit of time. But and then he sort of digs himself out of a hole. So he's kind of like, you just think, well, maybe. And then like what Lewis and Chris and everything said last week, it's saying, Boston, you want to come in there? Right.
Well, yeah, just on that point, Dave, because at my age, I forget things. So I'm sort of agreeing with what Liam qualified there a minute ago about the players will keep us up. Now, you said that he came in with 3-4 days before the Man United game when he came in, and he seemed to do a really good job. But maybe, well, actually, not maybe. Definitely, it was the players, wasn't it? Because you couldn't that performance against Man United, which we lost 1-0, but there was a nailed-on penalty when he took bloody Sassa's head off. Nail-on penalty, and we hit the post. Cunha, I think, hit the post where he should have scored. We should have won that game, but you can't tell me that in 4 days he created this performance.
Absolutely.
That was all totally down to the players, because that team was Lopetegui's team. Now, don't get me on Lopetegu. I think he's been found out, and those 6 months we had with Lopetegu. Yes, we had a great result against Liverpool, but I remember going to Brighton and losing 6-0 and Arsenal 5-0, and it was appalling. And actually, Dave, you asked me to have a look at Dave Edwards' thing last week, and it was that podcast that you did was the day after the Leeds game. You know, when we lost 4-3, wasn't it? And you know, people on there. I think we were on Craig. I don't know whether Craig
it was Jason, Manny,
Jason.
Paul,
It was Jason,
me,
and Paul,
and obviously Dave Edwards.
Yeah, but on there, you know, his tactics were being questioned, you know. But what I'm trying to say, that Man United game was Lopetegui's team, wasn't it? And they performed on that day. And I don't think it had anything to do with God. I think he has been found out, hasn't he? I mean, let's not get personal about Gary. He's probably a very decent.
No one is getting personal. No one's saying, you know, nasty, horrible things about him, you know, or anything like that. He's a very
well, actually, they are.
Well, some people are, but we're not that type of channel. Are we? We're not going to be personal. All we try to do on here is give our feelings in the right way and try and do it in a constructive way. People can be angry, but there's a way of being angry.
I've written something down here, like, you know, he was a coach, a youth team coach at Liverpool. He was very successful there. But you've got to remember, a team like Liverpool, you know, they're a top team at the moment, aren't they? But they, you know, they've always been a top 14. The way academies work, they cream off even if they don't produce them from 12 years old or 8 years old, or that, come the cut-off period at 16, they cream off what they want, you know. I mean, I saw it at Southampton, the Man City. They used to take player of Chelsea, take player after player.
Yeah, what's your point, Brian? Because what's your point on what you're trying to make on that?
The point I'm making is that he was a coach there. And he had some success. Became assistant coach to what's the guy's name? Scott Parker. Parker at Bournemouth. He did that. He lost 9-0 at Liverpool, and they were rock bottom, and he took over.
They weren't rock bottom, actually. They were outside the relegation zone. I think there were some that I think they weren't in the relegation zone when he took over. They had a bad result. And I think he got them up an extra place the rest of the year. Well,
Scott Parker gave a very, very bad interview. You know, he was blaming everybody but himself, and he got the sack the next day. And on the Wednesday they played us and they drew 0-0.
Yeah.
but anyway, so
let's see it from.
But he was given that opportunity and he took it. Now that may be his forte. You know, of you know, making not so good players play a bit better, you know. But
people are very much. Brian, I'm going to have to stop you there because, like, obviously you were coming in with a quick point there, and Craig's been waiting really patient for his chance to talk. People will argue that he's making very, very good players play a lot less than themselves this year. Craig, do you want to come in because you've waited very, very patiently?
Yeah, no. Look, it's about views, isn't it?
And
I don't look at like one game, David. As you know, I look at trends and I analyse over long periods. And I would question: have we seen any difference in our defensive formation generally? I'm on about generally over the last 25 games, and the answer is no. We are playing exactly the same way. We are so easy to play against. It's unbelievable. We give up chance after chance after chance. I mean, teams must be dying to play Wolves because whilst we will score goals through, and you're absolutely right, that individual brilliance that we've got in the team, when we haven't got the ball, we are like children. We try to play this presser, and I've watched this where Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, they all get 2 or 3 players around the ball, and they close it down very, very quickly. So there's no exit for the ball. So they win the ball back. We're too slow to do that. We leave gaps in that so that one ball through our 3 takes out 3 or 4 of our team, which again is why we're so exposed. Southampton, could have been, what, 2-3 up before we scored. We Dave, this guy 100% categorically will take us down if he stays in charge. He is defensively inept. He has no idea how to set a team up defensively. He is, when it comes to defensive play, he's absolutely clueless. And that's my point. And we can keep going over this. We're saying the same things time and time again. We are conceding goals for fun because we do not set up, we do not have a defensive structure. And that is down to him. He's making players look terrible. He's making them nervous. And if I was Sarr, Dave, I'd be one. And you can see why Sarr's so mad. He's got no structure in front of him as a keeper at all, and he's pulling off 3 or 4 brilliant saves a match. And the fans are having a go at him because he's conceding 3 or 4 goals.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think, I mean, it wasn't very long ago where people were going, let's get rid of Sarr, let's get rid of Sarr. Johnson comes in, it's like, let's bring Sarr back. Yeah, he made a mistake yesterday. You know, he made a mistake. He dilly-dallied. He made a mistake. He puts his hand up to it. Keepers do make mistakes. When they make a mistake, you know, they often get punished. He wasn't at fault for the first one. He wasn't at fault for the third one. And he wasn't at fault for the fourth one. That was the midfield were open. The defence was torn apart. And, you know, he's given a hospital ball. You know, other than that, everything he had to do was, obviously, his distribution can be in question. But
so why ask him to do that then? If you're going to play Sarr, why ask him to do something you know that he's useless at? He's absolutely useless with his feet. So why ask him to do it? That's down to the manager.
Well, these are the points, isn't it, that you make. Now let's just. I want to come back with your man of the match performance rating from Lewis, Brian, and thing. But I just want to talk about the incident at half time. I'm busy recording my halftime thing, so then I hear that what's gone on. Obviously, Sarr's been getting some abuse from someone in the stands. I don't know what's been said, but it's really got to him, and he's gone over to the South Bank, and I think he's been pointing at the guy. He's been dragged, and you know, most of the fans in the South Bank. If you read my match reaction, there's a guy that's on there that actually explains what happened because he was quite close to it, and all the fans around that area apparently pointed out the people and got the stewards to remove that fan. So they were backing Sarr, even though Sarr gets criticism for the mistakes that he's made, that they did stick up for him and they sang his name because obviously it really gets to him. Now, if you're in goal at Wolves and you've got fans that are stood behind you that are just castrating you throughout the game, you know, you want your keeper to play with confidence. It's going to get under your skin. I know that they're professional players, but they are still human beings. They are human beings with emotions and feelings. You know, they get paid a lot of money. That doesn't give anyone the right to abuse anyone on that pitch.
Dave,
you know, it doesn't give.
I'll just say, you're a keeper. You're Sarr, so I'm Sarr, and I'm standing there, and I've got 10 players in front of me that I have no confidence in without the ball. Right, so you're already edgy.
Exactly.
The ball comes through to you, right, so the ball comes through to you, and you're edgy game after game after game. And you're being made to look an absolute idiot because you've got no defensive structure in front of you. You're having to play like Superman every game, and you've got morons in the crowd ripping you out when you've got no protection.
Well, it was I think it was a couple of fans. The majority of the fans, as I say, were great with him. And they turned on that fan, and they got a thing. All I'm saying is, people do suffer with mental health. Whether you're a professional footballer or whatever, and you don't know what's going through, and I'm not one for hate and horrible. We talk, we'll debate, we'll discuss, we'll disagree, and we'll get angry, and it needs to be expressed in the wide way. But he shouldn't have been targeting. Sarr probably should have not lost it and gone into the crowd, but like he's a human being, and that's got to affect him, isn't it? It's got to affect him. And then people come on and say, let's get him out of the club and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. When he's got that defensive line in front of him, it's so difficult. He's a great shot stopper. And, you know, you don't want to drive players out the club and stuff like that. Lewis, I want to come back to you on that, and also everything else that's said, and like your man of the match and performance rating as well. On if you can obviously give any thoughts on any of that, and if you could.
It's never a good day when this kind of thing happens, and when a player goes into the crowd in the way Sarr does. Yeah, it's never good, and it's not a good sign of things that are going on at the club. And I think that, you know, I agree with what Tupper was saying, that it's especially the third goal. I think that was a lot of fans really annoyed. That goal really annoyed a lot of fans from Sarr, but I think it's clear for me that it was Dawson's pass.
Yeah.
And that's something that everybody has mentioned, to be honest. But I think after seeing that at half time, the fans clapping him and cheering him and you know, singing his name, to then seeing the reaction after the game, for me, that was the turning point, that third goal.
You mean the fourth goal?
The fourth, sorry, yeah.
Fourth goal.
Yeah. That one isn't his fault at all. And obviously, I know people have gone back and forth on Sarr and Johnston, but I think the reality is really neither of them are true number ones that are good enough for where we think we should be.
Yeah.
If you look at maybe 18th place in the league for the past few seasons, and you compared the goalkeepers of those teams, Sarr would probably be quite a decent one, but the fans, that there is an ambition in the fans to be more than that, obviously. And you know, I saw a post about Rui Patricio over the weekend, and yeah, the level between those two keepers is, yeah, you can't speak about them in the same way, I don't think. So there's a big drop off there. So I think that's another area where they're going to have to look at in January, whether they can or whether they will.
£10 million on Johnstone. They spent 10 million quid.
I think the summer it felt like we were trying to run before we could walk. I think it's the same with the Andre transfer. We didn't need another midfielder. We didn't need another keeper. We needed a centre back, somebody to replace Kilman. So for me, the summer, especially the end of it, it felt like we were trying to, you know, fix the areas of the pitch we didn't need fixing, rather than actually addressing the actual issue that we had. That we lost a player, a centre back, who played every minute last season, and we didn't replace him. I think we were trying to run before we could walk.
And the Andre thing as well, I think he's a great player. And I think he's going to, you know, you can see that it's an investment to sell him on. He's a brilliant. You need someone that's going to be able to take this squad and actually get them playing above their parts, not below the parts. Absolutely. And it feels like they're trying to slot Andre in. And what's Sarabia got to do to get on the pitch? Wang's been out injured for how long, and he comes on ahead of Sarabia. And Gary O'Neill is talking about Sarabia and Dawson have been fantastic leaders around the training ground, and then Sarabia, who's our most paid player, Wang been out for however long, can't get on the pitch.
This is the thing I always talk about, that as much as I am against Gary being the manager because of his tactical decisions, you look at what he's been given. He can make better decisions, but he would also like a better situation to be in as well. You know, when you have Sarabia on 200 grand a week, it's a lot of money.
How much is on?
Yeah, I think when he signed,
I'll do a lot.
Gary wouldn't organise the best defenders in this country. That man is defensively inept.
I agree with that.
He's had 25 games. He's defensively inept. It wouldn't matter who you brought in, we would still look chaotic. The man,
we still wouldn't be good, but we'd be much better
if we had another defender. And he's got to go.
We wouldn't be playing Lamina there.
He's got to go.
Yeah,
100% got to go.
Yeah, I just like to say, Dave,
before we move on to the next segment,
it's critical that we probably do something now, because we have got a good squad of players that are there now, and that could attract a good manager. You know, I don't know who it's going to be, but you know, maybe even Potter. You know, I mean, Potter's higher up the list than David Moyes, but they're the English managers that are available. The Conchasolia, I just can't see him coming. It's too big a job. But what could attract him is the likes of Kuna, Joe Gomez, Andre. I don't know the defenders, but you know, but you know, we have got a good you know set of players, but we it could be too late if we wait any longer, you know. But that's us talking. I guarantee that Gary O'Neill will be in charge for Everton and West Ham at least, because she won't do it. He won't do anything in the next week. He will not do anything in the next week.
Do you know what? I'm not so sure. I think if we get beaten bad, if we lose to Everton, it might be.
But if he loses to Everton 1 or 2, I still don't think they'd sack him. I agree with Brian. I think despite the Everton result, I still think he will be in charge.
Just possibly, but I don't think the away fans will stand for it.
No.
I think it'll go nuts. But you might be right. But if you lose 3 or 4, then there's a different kettle of fish. Brian, finish off what you're saying. Sorry, or did you finish?
Well, I was going to say, but if we can't beat Everton, then you know he does deserve to go. They lost 4-0 today, didn't they?
Do you know what?
But there's a very good example. Amaran has come in. Okay, he's a very good manager. Amaran did a fantastic job at Sporting, but in a few games he's changed their fortunes. I know they're Man United and they've got an abundance of decent players, more than decent players, yeah. But he's made a difference already. So. And he hasn't same players. It's the same players that are there, isn't it? You know, and the same thing could be applied to us if we get a decent coach in there. You know, somebody who can coach them properly.
It's a different voice that comes in. He's got that. I mean, he's got the gravitas. He's what he was doing. He's been around. He's got that thing. Gary O'Neill. You know, he played his football. He played at the top level. He hasn't been an elite. He ain't like an elite coach that comes in. He's like someone that's sort of come through the Bournemouth academy system, and
exactly. That's what I was saying before. He's done incredibly well at such a young age to get in charge of a Premier League club. But it's probably all a little bit too soon for him. He may go on to become a great manager. You know, he may do. We just don't know.
To be honest, Brian, I think if he does get. I think he'll definitely get another job, but I think it'll be somewhere in the Championship. Lewis, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, it's something that Brian's talking about with Amarim. Obviously, he's a completely different manager to the type of manager we'd be able to get. But one thing that I saw with Amarim was, there were a lot of kind of questions about what system they'd play at Man United, because the way he played at Sporting it's very difficult to play at Man United because of their injuries and whatever. But he said in an interview, it will be 3-4-3. His idea is very clear. I don't think Gary has that fixed idea. I don't know what Gary's kind of idea of playing football is, because it changes so much. It changed about 3 times in the game yesterday.
Yeah.
I can't tell you what he wants to do with that team, whereas Amarim is very clear. He can give the players instructions very clearly that are very consistent. They will stay the same. They know their jobs, inside out. Our players, they're here, there, and everywhere.
Well, I think from the first day he came in, I'm pretty sure he's always said he wants to kind of adapt to each team he plays against. And I personally don't think that's going to work. Especially with Nuno, we always had a system to fall back on. Obviously, we tweak things for different sides, but we'd always have a system to fall back on. I just don't think we have, especially this season. But when his plan A goes wrong, I just feel like we don't have anything to go back to.
And that shows when we haven't got the ball. The players have got no idea what system to play, because he tinkers it. And that Bournemouth fan, David, what did he say to you? He said he'll mess about with the team. He'll change team according to who he's playing. We have got no foundation for our players to go to when we're in trouble. David, you're aware I've just taken over a new band in elite banding. Lovely people, really talented, but really loose. not playing together, not balanced, not just not within 3 rehearsals. That's completely changed. We've laid down the foundations, we've laid down the rules, and they're doing it. And all of a sudden, they're playing like they're in a different league, and that's what we're missing. We've got no structure, we've got no foundation. We've got a man that needs to understand the word KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Yeah, he's messing about too much. He's trying to be clever. He isn't clever enough. He isn't experienced enough. We've got the players. That bloke's killing us.
Absolutely. Right. Listen, I'm going to go to another video segment here. There's going to be a video segment from, well, you'll see who it is, and then a little clip from my interview reaction with my dad after the game at the weekend. But first of all, here we go.
From Marina, California at the Brass Tap. So it ends Wolves 2, Bournemouth 4. Just absolutely shocking. Absolutely shocking, shambolic. Once again. 2 steps forward, 4 steps back. I just have absolutely no words. I have no words to describe what I just watched today. Coming into the day, we knew Bournemouth were going to challenge us, and they had players who can hurt us. I said that last match reaction. Their verticality and their directness and their pressing are very good. And I get why Gary has stuck with that side from the Fulham 4-1 result. But at the end of the day, that's a makeshift defense. And if anybody thought that we could go out there and potentially challenge Bournemouth, who have a great attack, and again, players who can hurt us, with no true center back in the side today, in the 11, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what the hell he's doing on the second penalty. He's on the moon. I don't know what the hell Totti is doing on that first penalty as well. Reckless challenge. And then Dawson with an absolute hospital ball on the third penalty. The second goal Bournemouth scored, credit to them, that's a good goal. Maybe we got drawn out a little too easily and pulled out of position a little too easily, but still, that's a good goal. In the end, at least, there are still a few positives to take away. Larson looked good. Gomez looked good again. Geddes, when he came on, looked good. But that's about it. And there's very little positive I can take away from today's result. But those are the only few, at least. So, yeah, if we don't beat Everton midweek, the seat just gets hotter for Gary. And that's just the reality. So it is on to Everton midweek. And, yeah, we'll see you then. Anyways, try to enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys, and always Wolves.
Oh man, I'm feeling very damp and down at the moment. Let's go over and see what Magic has to say.
David, they played well last week, and that was okay. But I think they won the championship. On this showing today, they wouldn't have beat Bilston. I'm absolutely disgusted. I've always stood by them. But
you've always stood by Gary, you mean?
Gary and the team, really.
Where are you at today? Because you were really, really stick with him, and then today you've changed your mind.
I have changed my mind, David, because on that show it was absolutely disgusting. They ought to be ashamed of themselves and putting the Wolves shirt on, because they played way off the park, and they was a better team altogether, Bournemouth were.
Wow. I have to play that because my dad, a bit like me, he's patient, and he was before the game, Gary O'Neill, and then if you watch my match vlog, in fact, if you watch the start of my match vlog, he just says he's got to go. He just comes out of nowhere. But there's my dad, and it's sitting next to me, and he's gone. He's got to go, and I'm like, "What did you say?" And he went, "He's got to go."
Yep.
This is my dad, and if my dad has turned and said that, you know it's bad. And that's why when I was doing the interview afterwards, I checked it with him, and yeah, and he don't like to say it because, you know, he wants him. We all wanted him to be a success, and I've got to be honest with you, Emma, the producer, she's quite tolerant as well, and she's like, exactly the same yesterday, today, and she just like I keep thinking about it. It's like he's overcomplicating what they're trying to do, or they just doesn't know what he's doing. He's trying to overcoach them or overcomplicate it, and they don't know because they're not playing as a cohesive unit. And over 26, 25 games or 13 games this season, although the law, according to Gary O'Neill, you take out the big defeats, you take out the 5 goals conceded against Brentford, you take out the however many we conceded against Chelsea, and he's like, well, if you take them out, our goals conceded aren't that bad. It's like we've conceded 4, 5, and 6 goals. Let's just take them out and don't count them. They're under your watch. That's what happened. It's like you can't just dismiss them and say, like, well, if you take them out, our expected conceded goals is actually all right. We could all do that, can't we? So, yeah, my dad he's probably watching, bless him, and he's gone to the point where he's gone now, and I just don't know what the answer is. It's like I just feel that the fan base have got to a point now where it's almost becoming untenable. They're wanting to succeed, but it's just like we just feel like it's just going to be the same unless something changes. And the only thing that can change is the manager. I think like Brian and Liam, they're probably not going to sack him after yesterday because Gary's going to come out and go, well, that the players made those mistakes, but he puts the players in those positions to make the mistakes. So the Everton game now becomes almost again like that Southampton game. It's kind of like he can't lose it, and he's kind of really got to win it because he's got to try and swing the pendulum back. So I'm going to be fascinated to see the team. We know that Semedo is going to be out suspended for Everton. I also think, Lewis, you might know if this is right or not. Is Lamina out suspended as well? I think Lamina's suspended as well, isn't he? I think.
I'm not sure, Dave. If he got 5, then yeah.
No, it's just. I thought you said Lamina was suspended.
He was on 3 before, yes. Or did he get a yellow yesterday?
It's Semedo. Semedo's out. So, Semedo's out. So, it's going to be interesting. Is he going to stick with Jose Sarr? Will he bring in Johnston? Obviously, the game comes around very quickly. How is he going to freshen it up? Is Tommy Doyle going to get on the pitch? Is Sarabia going to start? Fresher legs.
Yeah, Dave, that bizarre substitution he made but I think he took Andre off and he brought Wang on. I was screaming, where the hell's Tommy Doyle? We brought Forbes on, who is the fastest forward in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I think that guy at Tottenham, the centre half's quicker, and some of the midfield player, but he's faster than Haaland, who was the fastest player at Man City. And we had a guy that was on the bench that could come and spray the ball out wide to him on the left. And we bring Wang on and play him in midfield. I mean, it's just bizarre.
He's clueless, Brian. He's a clueless manager.
I think the change for me that confused me was half time when he brought Rodrigo Gomez off, Dawson on, and he kept Lamina at centre back. At times that second half, it reminded me too much of Bruno Lage in his second season when he got sacked. And I think he got sacked
when he played Neves.
It just felt that there was no formation at that point. It was just whack 11 players on the pitch and hope the likes of Cunha, Bellegarde, Larson do something. That's what I don't agree with.
When you've got to look on an iPad to give yourself some idea, when the majority of us, if not all, can watch it on a pitch and know exactly what we need and where. When you've got to go to an iPad, mate, you know that you've lost the plot. The bloke is inept. When are we going to wake up to the fact the bloke is 100% inept? We're going to lose Wednesday. We're going to lose Wednesday night because Everton have got a better defensive structure than we have.
Well, all I'm going to say is, like someone made the point, the board, what they're doing, the board, there's I think Jeff obviously makes the ultimate decision, but the board surely if you're on the board, you've got to be asking questions and saying like and talking about this. You
He's a
know,
control freak though, Jeff Sheed, Dave. We know he is, and he ain't got a clue about football.
well, Jeff ultimately will make the final decision, but the board are still there. They've got to be, as a board, surely be asking the question at this point. Now, to me, someone's asked the question: if he loses against Everton, he should be sacked that night. Personally, it's like I don't see how he can be in charge against West Ham. I know we're playing West Ham, but we're not playing West Ham till the Monday, so that's like 5 days. I think if he doesn't, we can't lose to Everton because they're one of our relegation things. It's a 6-pointer, so if he wins the game, he gets to stay on, doesn't he? Until West Ham. But if he loses the game, I think we'll be going into the West Ham game with an interim manager who's the under-21s coach at the moment.
Carsley. Oh, you mean ours? Sorry, I thought you meant England.
Whoever.
Sorry, Dave. Yeah.
James Collins. Yeah. And I think I'm hoping that they're already got the button ready to go on. Hopefully bringing a manager in. I think there's a lot.
But Dave, I agree that I think he should have been sacked even before that run of 4 games. But West Ham, obviously, I watched him against Arsenal the other night, and it's Lopetegui, so he's a good enough coach. He's very competent. They got some good players at West Ham.
Yeah.
So if they do sack O'Neill after the Everton game, if we lose, James Collins it's a guaranteed loss. I agree. You have to make that decision, but James Collins won't beat Lopetegui. So you have to make a decision of, okay, we will sack him, but when are we going to sack him? Because the run is, as I said last week, Dave, that run from Boxing Day, that's tough. And the opportunity is obviously in January where you can maybe make some changes with transfers. But if we sack him again, if we lose against Everton, we'll definitely lose against West Ham. Whereas maybe we might pick up a point against West Ham, even if we lose against Everton.
Do you know? I get your point, but I don't buy into that necessarily because if he's sacked, but like the players have got pride and responsibility. You don't know that then when we won't get a result against West Ham. You say that we probably won't, but that might be the case. But like, when do you make the thing? It's like, do you wait until we lose it? We lose to West Ham.
But if you sack him against Everton,
get a result against West Ham, is there?
So if we didn't lose if we lost against Everton, sorry, Dave, we might not lose against West Ham. But you can't keep, if you can't be good enough to not get sacked and that be it. You've got to.
So Lewis, obviously, really interesting because you're a deep thinker and I get your point, but you said he should have gone already. He's not going to get sacked before Everton. No. We lose to Everton. Say we do, and I hope we beat Everton because we need the points. I don't buy into this. What some people say, I hope we get spanked 5-0 by Everton because then they've got to sack him. Because I'd rather have the 3 points. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And keep getting the points. But like, if we do lose to Everton, when if you're the chairman, you're not sacking him that night or the next day. You're going to wait till when to do it.
This is it, Dave. This is where, and I read a lot of comments about obviously Jeff and the poor leadership there, but Jeff's made it very clear that Matt's in charge of it now. Jeff's give that decision to Matt, and I know he could override him.
Matt Hobbs wasn't even there yesterday.
This is what I mean, Dave. This is the bigger problem for me. He's the person who ultimately decides our next coach. I know people believe that Jeff is somebody who
he'll have
he has to sign off on it.
Yeah.
But Matt Hobbs will go to Jeff with the next manager and say, this is who the manager will be. And Jeff will say, yes, okay, because you're my sporting director. Matt's the bigger problem because he hasn't sacked him when there was a perfect opportunity just before the international break in November.
We're 9 points off 15 already. We're 9 points from 15 already, from 15th place. We're not. There's a 9-point gap between us and 15th. That's really worrying.
Well, there's a six. There's a mini league, isn't there, Craig? There's a six.
Absolutely. And we shouldn't be anywhere near it, Dave. With the players we've got, we shouldn't be anywhere near where we are, and that's the biggest problem, isn't it? And the fans know that as well. The talent we've got in our squad, we should be nowhere near that league.
I agree. Brian, I know you want to come in, but when you come in, I'm also asking you a question as well. So make your comment. I want you to make a score prediction for Everton, and then I want to hear your position as a very, very level-headed person, as if you're like the sporting director, stroke chairman, of what you would do with Gary O'Neill, what your decision is at this point in time. So make your point, score prediction, Gary O'Neill.
Well, my point was pretty much related to your second question. As Lewis was saying then, after the Brentford game, any other club in the Premier League after that performance would have stopped, behind the scenes, the owners would have been putting a plan together for a replacement. And I don't think that has happened. They looked at the fixture list and they thought, we could pick up some points here. And they did, and it all stemmed from what Sutty was crying out for at the beginning of the season. We've got to go back to a back five. We've got to go back to a back five. Finally go to a back five and we start picking up points. I know the Fulham game was a back four, but, that was injury and a bit of luck. But first thing we've got to do is go back to a back five. But what I was saying is, do you have a plan? I just don't think they've put it together, and they haven't got it now. And when Lopetegui came in, when we sacked Bruno Lage, we had the two youth team managers running and we didn't win a game, did we? We lost every game, while they were in charge. It was about 4 or 5 games.
Which is Lewis's point. Exactly,
and we can't be in that situation again. But the problem is, we may well be if he with the Lopetegui, we had the World Cup. We had the World Cup in Qatar, didn't they? So there was like a 5-week break. So there was time to get somebody in. It was like a mid-season break, wasn't it? You haven't got that luxury now, have you? As Lewis said, we did have a 2-week break. The other week. We've had 3, haven't we, this season? We've had three points where we could have made a difference, but we didn't take that opportunity. So that's too late now. But I just don't believe that they have a plan together to get somebody in. I think it'll eventually be a knee-jerk reaction, and we'll probably end up with somebody that we don't really want. The score prediction for Wednesday, 0-0.
0-0. Is Gary O'Neill in charge? Are you keeping him for what are you doing?
Well, like I say, I don't think there's an alternative at the moment. So
Brian, there are lots of alternatives.
No, I meant I don't think Fosun have got an alternative. That's what I'm trying to say.
If they haven't, if they haven't, I am incredibly worried. It's like what Lewis said last week about the defender. If they haven't planned for this, if there is no plan in place, it is, what's the word? It's not incompetent. It's, I can't think of what the word, but the right word. Pardon?
Naive, whatever.
No, not naive. It's bad because that's what they're paid the money to do. So if there is no plan, then we're in real crap. So I can't believe there is no plan.
If we haven't got a plan, I would rather keep him rather than letting the youth team manager take over, the 2021 manager take over. It's totally different. You can't step up from that.
That's the word. The word there, negligent. That's the word I want. It's negligent. If there is no plan, it's negligence, and I cannot believe that there will not be a plan. There's got to be. There's got to be. There must be, because it isn't. If there isn't, it's.
I think I've seen something that they've had like talks with other managers just in case they're getting rid of O'Neill. So I'm sure they do, but it's whether who they can actually get that would actually come to us, who's going to have to work with the budget we've got. And I think Moyes could be that person because, I mean, he was at West Ham. They gave him a lot more money than I'm sure we will. But yeah, I think even Moyes, Potter. I'm not convinced on the Conceição guy because I haven't seen much of him. Because at the moment, if we're going to replace O'Neill now in midway through the season, we can't bring Conceição in because he hasn't managed in the Premier League. It's got to be either
neither is Amaran. Conceição.
They're not relegation.
Conceição is apparently the nearest we're going to get to Nuno. That's what it's Porto. I'm just saying that's what people say.
I'd argue Man United aren't in a position that we are. They can take that risk on Mormon because they're not going to get relegated. This is whether we stay up or not. I'm not willing to take the risk on him. I'd rather bring in Moyes or Potter. Moyes, I'd lean more toward Moyes at the minute because I'd have more confidence in him keeping us up. I don't know anything about the Conceição guy, so I can't sit here confidently and say he's going to keep us up. Moyes or Potter, I've got a bit more confidence in.
Okay. Lewis, you're shaking. Hold on, Brian. Lewis.
I think we had the discussion a few weeks ago, Dave, when we were talking about Conceição or Moyes or Potter. Potter is a no. They won't get Potter because his salary is too high. I think he's still being paid from his salary at Chelsea. So I think he would go into negotiations and say, you have to nearly match it because why am I going to, not take that salary? And I don't think he has any desire to risk being relegated as he would be entering at Wolves. Moyes I like a lot. I think it would be a fantastic choice. But
in the short term, short term.
But both. I think in the short term, he'd be really good, Dave. I think he'd keep us up. And I think in the long term, he's a manager who won a European trophy with West Ham. And then they were also in the Europa League the season before. I think they did very well, obviously. And then they got to the Conference League final and won that. But I don't think they'll get Moyes. Unfortunately, I think he'll be waiting for a bigger job or one with less pressure. Less risk, I would say, less risk. And Conceição, as I told you a few months ago, Dave, it's impossible. Matt Hobbs will not appoint Conceição because of the links to Gestafoot. He will have to go to Jeff and say, I've told you to come away from Gestafoot, but go and employ one of their managers. Impossible.
Oh no, that's sad, isn't it? Really?
Of course, because that's his pride that is restricting us from getting a really good coach. I think, remember when I said, Dave, about when I slipped up and said that Scott Sellers would become the coach when I was talking about Rob Edwards? Yeah. I think that's going to be our next manager, Dave.
Rob Edwards?
Yeah. If Matt Hobbs is the sporting director, that's who he'll get.
You can't. Rob Edwards is a poster boy. He's a really, really great guy. No doubt about it, but it's just swapping Peter to swap out Paul.
That's who we'll get, Dave, in my opinion.
It's struggling with Luton. That won't go down very well. Even though Rob Edwards is very well liked by the Wolves fans, he's not ready for the Wolves. He's not ready for the Wolves job.
Yeah, he won't be brought in. He ain't done very well in the Championship this season. I really doubt they'd ever go to. And if they go to him, then.
I would be surprised if you see the Aberdeen manager be someone like him.
Yeah, but this is who we like, Dave. What about what Matt likes? And I think I just saw a comment that Matt will play it and spin it as Rob's a coach, a young English manager who he likes, who knows the club well. Well, that's great.
We've heard that story before. It ain't gonna wash.
Matt Hobbs is a glorified scout, remember? He's got no idea.
Nothing against Rob Edwards because he's a really, really, really decent human being. He really, really is. And he loves Wolves, but he is not ready. We need someone with gravitas that's going to come in and get the respect to these top international players that we've got, and that you can't just. It's not going to work. What's your score prediction for Wednesday then, Lewis?
I liked Brian's optimism for a clean sheet. I really liked it, but to be honest, I saw Everton today, and they look poor up front. NDI, who was a good player for them, when probably just before the international break, he looked very quiet, Dave. And I think apart from that, they've got nothing up front. So I would like a clean sheet, but I just don't see us going to Goodison Park and winning, Dave. I think that they know the
We
same
have got
as
we have got a really good record against Everton at Goodison.
Yeah, but I think they know the same as us, Dave, that they need to win. And,
well, they're going to be looking at Wolves. To be honest, I think Sean Dyche is kind of like in the same position as Gary O'Neill for the Everton fans. They're going to be looking at that and thinking, you've got to win this game against Wolves. It's for his career as well.
Yeah,
I mean, we haven't really looked at it. Yeah.
It would be better if it was a home game for us, because, all the benefits that they get of the fans putting that pressure on and building the atmosphere. And the fans will already be very good in Everton. So I think my prediction, Dave, I will get to it now. I'm going to go a 1-0 loss in the last minute, Dave.
A last minute? Oh, God, just did the dagger in even further. 1-0 loss. Brian's gone with 0-0. Gary O'Neill, what are you doing about him? You're sporting director, stroke chairman. What's your call?
Mine?
No, Lewis.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave. You're asking if I would sack him now?
When? Like before the Everton game?
Obviously, I really want to stress that I would have sacked him before the international. I don't think sacking him before Everton makes sense. I know fans would like that, but you've got to have somebody to come in, because the options at the club are not that they're worse than Gary. Absolutely.
So do you ever sack him then?
Well, yeah. But this comes from poor planning from the club, that Matt should make a decision in November. He hasn't, so let's go off that. I look at the fixtures, Dave, and I think, well, for Wednesday, Everton, I think even if we won, I don't know, maybe sack him on Monday night after the West Ham game and have that replacement. Look now, interview candidates now, and have somebody ready to come in on Tuesday morning, ready for the Ipswich game on Saturday the 14th.
Which is going to be a very special game because it's the Honved game. Liam, your score prediction and what would you do?
I'm not overly confident, because it's difficult to go to good. I mean, we did it last season, but it's difficult there. The atmosphere is really good, and I think that'll get the better of the players. I'm saying a 2-1 loss. I think we'll score. Don't get me wrong. I think we'll score. We've scored in every game apart from the first day of the season. But as of what I do, it really depends. What I do as a competent person, I'd look around. If there's somebody who can come in, like a David Moyes, who is ready to come in and has agreed to come in, then I'd see what happens on Everton, and then even if he loses heavily against Everton, I wouldn't sack him yet. I think I'd wait for West Ham. I agree with what Brian and Lewis have said. There's no point sacking him after Everton, because we've got a better chance of getting a result with him rather than an interim manager who would come in. But I'd bring in if somebody was ready to come in, I'd sway more towards bringing in a new manager as soon as possible. But I'll stand by it. Like I said, I think the players are good enough to get us out of this position at some point in this season.
Okay, Craig, I'm going to go to you, but in the chat, start thinking about questions for the panel to close it off. But in the chat, I want you to write down if you keep Gary O'Neill come what may, or if you'd let him go and when you'd let him go in the chat. So put your thoughts. We'll put some of them on the screen. And then obviously, if you've got any questions for the panel before we close off for the evening, Craig.
If Gon's in charge, we'll lose. I think Everton have not got that much up front, but they will definitely score against us because we're so poor defensively. So it's likely to be a 2-1, and I hate that with a passion. I just want to back my side. I would sack Gary O'Neill at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. what that would do whilst the guys are absolutely right, if we lose without a manager, it's to send a message to the players. But also, we've got to remember that we've got a jumped up scout as a director of football, and we've got a clueless CEO. And in the chat, Dave, everybody's saying you're missing the point, and we need to get Fosun out. When are people going to realise Fosun own us? If they don't want to sell us, they don't have to sell us. So we have no influence over them whatsoever. And why we waste energy? Everybody knows what a shout of shite they are, right? We all know that.
Well, that's obviously your opinion, Craig.
Well, yeah, I think, Dave, that it's most people's opinion.
Okay, well, I'm just saying that's your
opinion. No, it's most people's opinion, Dave. And I understand why you don't want to go down that route. I get it, but Gary O'Neill's clueless. Matt Hobbs clearly doesn't know that much. So our 3-line whip, Dave, is shocking. He's got to go.
So you do it 9 o'clock tomorrow morning?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would.
So it's very interesting in the chat on all of this. Yeah, you're forgetting that not only do we need a new manager, but a whole new coaching staff. That's not actually totally true, because there are occasions where coaches do stay, but yeah, a lot of the time managers do want to bring their people in with them and everything. So obviously that. So yeah, listen, we're going on to the questions now. There are 914 of you watching. I do want to just mention, if you're looking for Christmas gifts, I have to mention this because Foco, who are one of our partners, they do licensed Wolves merchandise. This is like a nice big water cup that you can have. I know some people want pajamas for Christmas. They like these matching pajamas. You've got your pajamas there. So if you go on the Foco site, there's loads of products. You need Christmas gifts. You have to use the link in the description below us. There's all sorts. There's Christmas tree baubles. There's warm blankets, there's bags, there's gnomes, there's hats, there's caps, there's shirts, there's lots of stuff that you can get. If you use the link below and use the code alwayswolves15, you have to use the link below to go at the same time. You will get 15% off everything on their site. And that, even if you've got like a friend that's a Liverpool fan or whatever, or even like, you know, a Bournemouth fan, there's products for them. You can use the same link and the same code across the whole of the site. There's NFL stuff as well on there. There's all sorts. There's like Marvel stuff and all sorts. But you use the link, use the code, guaranteed delivery before Christmas. Someone has asked about Tommy Doyle, Kasabian. Who wants? Lewis, do you want to kick off with this one? Discuss Tommy Doyle's prospects to play, because he's not really been getting on the pitch, has he?
No, but I think when he has played, Dave, he's looked good. He's looked like a very. He's looked like he could be a very important player for us. Also, there's been a lot of, Gary struggled with how he'd fit the 3 midfielders in the team of Lamina, Gomez, and Andre. But to me, I think he should be struggling with how he's going to start with Doyle. I think he should. Things aren't working, so change them and have a look at what you can do rather than what you can't. Get Doyle on and have a look, and if it doesn't work, well, you're going to be sacked anyway. So I think he should definitely start against Everton, because he offers us a lot. As I forget who said it now. When Carlos Forbes come on, you need somebody to find him. He can do all the running in the world, but if there's nobody playing that pass, and in the end we finish with one midfielder, it's useless. He's not. Maybe he can, but it's unlikely he's going to dribble through the whole team. He needs to be on the end of a pass, touching it and squaring it across or finishing. So Doyle has to come in for me, absolutely.
I think he's probably going to get started, hopefully on Wednesday, because the legs and stuff, bit of fresh energy. Okay, Brian, quick one on this. You think want this one? Is
Absolutely.
this to start?
Absolutely. I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now. You know, what's he got to do to get a start? He scored a goal last week. He set up a goal this week. Yeah. Well, if he doesn't start, get him at least 35 minutes. You know, I mean, instead of like 10 minutes there and 10 minutes there. You know, he's a quality player, Geddes, isn't he? You know, I know he had his problems when he first signed. He looked like silver, didn't he? He didn't really want to be here, but I think he's done well. He did well in pre-season. He did really well against Burnley in the League Cup. I gave Burnley, but and he did well at Brighton in the League Cup as well. But he, you know, I don't know what's wrong with O'Neill. Why doesn't he? What's he done wrong? You know, I mean, he could. I actually agree with you, David, about Bellegarde. I think he's a decent player. I just don't know whether he's strong enough for the Premier League. I think that's his problem.
I think what Lewis said is quite what we're right with Bellegarde. It's like it's in a different setup in the team. It could be very, very effective, and I think Lewis said that bang on. We've got another question here coming in. Craig, your answer. Give your thoughts on this one, and then Liam. As you haven't answered the question, do you think the situation in the dressing room and behind the scenes is as happy as the club make out? We'll go with Craig, then Liam on this one.
Yeah, no way. You've got a group of players for me, and Brian's just alluded to Doyle. But did you see Guedes when he scored his goal against Fulham? That he's not happy at all. His body language was atrocious. He's a good player. We've let a lot of really, really talented players go from Wolves because we can't do the best with them. And I think we've got a group of players at Wolves that are almost a shoo-in, no matter how they play. And then we've got fringe players, Sarabia, Doyle, Guedes, the like Lima, who are not getting a look in when the players on the pitch are playing like drongos. And that is a serious problem, isn't it? When you, as a professional, are not being picked, and the people that are just playing awful. What that really brings your mood and your confidence down. So I think the team's split. That's my view. That against those that are getting picked, that love Gary, and those that are not, that can't wait for him to go.
Absolutely, I do think that there is obviously they're going to come out and say the right things, which is the right thing to do in public and stuff like that. But I do get to hear a few bits and pieces, and apparently, I mean, how true it is or not, there's a couple of senior players after the match that were having words with Gon after the game against Bournemouth. I think you can see from Jose Sarr how stressed he is.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of pressure on the players. They're very good people on the whole. I would imagine that I don't think things are happy with Johnston, because I think he's really annoyed because he's been promised to be number one, and then he's been sat on the bench. And I think I don't buy into he's been ill as much as he has. I would imagine that Geddes has been frustrated. I think, but you can see when he comes on, he's really, really giving a lot of effort, and fair play to him. Sarabia is undoubtedly going to be frustrated, but Gary speaks very highly of Sarabia. He speaks really highly of Sarabia in the press conference.
You don't pick him, Dave.
Well, that was what I was saying. What does he need to do? And I think Sarabia will start. And Liam, your picture's suddenly gone super clear and everything there on your phone.
It's my phone, man. We have to start using this more often. Laptop's getting binned.
The laptop's getting binned. What do you think on the players? Think everything's still okay in the dressing room? And if Lewis, you've got any insight on this, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts.
Well, I'll be honest, I haven't seen anything that suggests not. Obviously, other people might know more than me. I'm not sure. But for me, it doesn't seem like a dressing room that is against each other in a sense. I think Bruno Lage lost the dressing room. You could tell that because the players didn't seem happy. Lopetegui, he upset a couple of the big names when he was here. But I haven't got the impression that O'Neill's lost the dressing room as such. The players still look like they're playing for him. Obviously, other people might say other things, but again, I don't know anything. But from to the naked eye, it doesn't seem like he's lost it completely. And that, yeah, that's basically it, really. They're still going over to him when they score. They're still, listening to what he's doing as such. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, he seems like he's still got it.
Interesting. Lewis, any insight on that? Any thoughts?
I don't think so, Dave. I don't really have anything to add there. I think that I don't think they're not playing for Gary.
I think you can see they're trying. I said yesterday that they are trying. They're putting in the effort, but we're playing like a lot of individuals rather than a team.
It's clear that what Gary's asking them to do, they're still playing that way. So I talk about playing out from the back. I think everybody knows that doesn't work, but they're still doing it because Gary's told them to. That they are still persisting with that, which, rightly or wrongly from the players, that they are still sticking with it. But I just don't think that there's been that same feeling and belief in a manager across the whole club since Nuno, Dave. There's been belief in what a coach is trying to do, like especially with Lopetegui. You could see that the players, especially he brought in, they played for him. I think maybe Sarabia, even Dawson, they played for him for sure. But I just don't see that the identity that Nuno had at the club as the manager. No one has come close to replicating that, Dave.
Final question, because Darren's been really, really persistent, and then we're going to finish. Dave and the panel, do you think there'll be protests as the way things are going at the club? No, I don't see that. If there was any protests that were going to be happening, it would have happened in pre-season. Obviously, with the season ticket prices, all the fan podcasts, and along with the trust, we got together, the fans advisory board at the meeting. Obviously, the season tickets are frozen for next year. Well, they will be. I think there will be protests if they don't wait. There's a general FSA protest that's going around with a big banner that's been going around, which is don't across the whole of the Premier League. You saw it in the Man U versus Everton game. If you look on some of the pictures, you saw a very big banner, but that was at Wolves as well. That's the don't take advantage of loyalty. That's an FSA thing. In terms of protest, there's going to be no protest as such. What you might find is the away support, as what started to happen in segments against Brentford, would turn and get more vocal. And to be honest, it was bubbling under against Crystal Palace at Molineux. If they had scored that extra goal when we were were on the ropes, as they nearly did, I think it could have gone toxic then. But it's been bubbling under the surface. I think if there's going to be anything that'll happen where it gets nasty, it'll be in the stadium and it'll be spontaneous. That's my thoughts. Craig, Lewis, Brian, Liam, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think there'll be any protests. I think if, like you said, if there was going to be any protests, it would have happened already, probably. But yeah, I'm on the same wavelength as you, Dave. I think if there's anything that was going to happen, it'd be in the spur of the moment. If we get an absolutely thumped 5-0 or something, something might come about then. But apart from that, I don't think so.
A related thing, Dave, on this, one of you guys asked a question. Wolves got the worst fans in their division. Are you joking? We've had 3 wins in 10 months, and the fans have been absolutely right behind the team. So that's probably an opposition fan, mate.
Oh, mate, I've seen him.
We've got some of the best fans in the world at Wolves, and we're patient. The problem now is I think there's a mixture of apathy and anger. So half of the fans are apathetic and won't do anything and shrugging their shoulders, and the other half, as you rightly say, Dave, is starting to get angry. And you notice it's just starting to happen earlier in games.
You can feel it. You can feel it in the stadium. You can feel it bubbling. It's like if you watch my match vlogs, there's booing at half time, there's booing at full time. You know, it hasn't turned thing. But the last time I can remember it getting really nasty was when Scott Sellers, and he went very, very fast after that. He was when it turned. But like, you know, I'm not sure whether it's apathy. It's just like everyone's concerned and worried. But like Cheerful Chris, for example, he's gone through the anger stage to like acceptance of we're just crap. You know, you know, it's kind of like hope's been knocked out, but we have had a bit of hope back with the recent results. And then the Bournemouth game, it's like, it's kind of like, well, like what Lewis was saying last week and Chris, it's just piping over the cracks. And I think the cracks started to show again. The paint's been put over the paper, but the cracks showed. And Everton this Wednesday is another pivotal game because I'm going to be there. We'll be reporting after the game. But I do think if we don't have put on a good performance and we don't, you know, play well in this game and don't and if we get turned over, it's going to go bad. It will go bad. And I don't want it to go bad, but like we need the points. We can't lose to Everton because they'll pull away. We've got to at least keep them closer. We've got to at least get a draw. But to me, I wanted 4 points out, at least 4 points out of these two fixtures, and we've got none out the first one. So we've got to beat Everton. Have to beat Everton. So yeah. So final thoughts from everyone. Thanks for everyone that's joined in the chat. The poll result has Carl's putting up for us there. This is not on whether Gon stays or not. Who's to blame? It's Gary O'Neill for Bournemouth, 4%, the players 11%, and both 49%. So, final words, Brian, just in one little line. Final thoughts to finish the podcast from you, and we're going to go Brian, Liam, Craig, and Lewis, and then we're done.
Right, okay. Yesterday's game, we were, despite the fact that we gave 3 silly goals away, we were outcoached. Their coach outcoached our coach.
Outcoached. Chris Humphries, I'm going to tell you off. I'm telling you off right now, Mr. Cheerful. You can't call some people clueless because they don't have the same view as you. This poll is about who's at fault, and they've got their opinion. So that's naughty. That is.
Love him.
Naughty, honestly. I knew he'd be in the background, right? I'm just backing him up and then he comes out with that. Liam, your final thoughts.
I think the game against Everton's a huge game, and I think the fact we're 13 games in, and we've already had a couple of these games where, you know, if we lose, we go down one end of the track, and then if we win, it's on a whole other level. But I think we've had too many of those games. The next two is going to decide whether O'Neill stays, I think, in the club's eyes. They said a couple of months ago they'd give him the November fixtures, and they have. He's got a couple of points out of them, but I think it's the next two games that will decide, you know, his future and if he stays at Wolves.
Thank you for your contribution tonight, Liam. Much appreciated. Craig?
Yeah, and the guy's clueless when we haven't got the ball. We can't keep clean sheets. We've kept one in what is it, about 15, 16 games. And I have seen nothing in 25 games to make me change my mind. I've seen no improvement in our defensive structure. The bloke is out of his depth. Bournemouth sacked him for a reason, despite staying up. The bloke needs to get out of our club and maybe check the line up with him. That's my say so, Dave. There you go.
And Craig, great to have you back on, mate.
Thank you, and you, mate. Thank you.
And obviously, I'll see you later in the week as well. Lewis, the final word for this week goes to you, my friend.
I think what we're seeing, Dave, is partly Gary. You know, I'd say 45% Gary. But the biggest culprit for me has to be Matt Hobbs for his lack of planning. planning in terms of transfer strategy to sign a defender. And if we had signed a defender, he said that we would have loaned Santiago Bueno out. That's a huge mistake. But also, he's the man in control. He could have ended. He could have ended the issue with Gary just before the international break. Had 2 weeks for a new coach to come in to prepare with the squad. It's the result of really poor planning. And that, I think, if we sat Gary, as much as maybe the immediate results short term will change with also maybe the bounce effect of a new manager, things like that, we'll be in the same position next season when the recruitment team fail to give the manager, whoever he is, what he really needs to push on. And that's the final thing I'd like to say.
Great points. Guys, listen, in the chat, we've had well over 800 of you watching live the whole way through the live show. There's normally 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 of you watch it back on catch up, and there's another couple of thousand that normally listen to it on the podcast as well. Thank you ever so much for joining us. It always amazes me, there's quite a lot of you that do watch the channel, but there's quite a few of you that haven't subscribed yet. We're trying to get to 35,000 before the end of the year. I think we're just on 34,700 and something. So look, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, help us out. We work hard to provide the content for you. Hit that subscribe button. It just helps us get bigger and better and provide better content for you if you can do that for us.
Dave, just point out that it doesn't cost anything to subscribe.
It doesn't.
Absolutely,
it doesn't. But it does help us out. It lets YouTube know, and hit the like on the video. Craig, Brian, Lewis, Liam, thank you for being so articulate and strong and thoughtful with your views as well, and putting across in the right way. Much appreciated. Obviously, we'll keep track on everything that's happening. And obviously, we've got a game on Wednesday night. So obviously, we're getting all the reaction after that one, and then the build-up, of course, following that to West Ham. From all of us, stay safe. Always Wolves.
Always Wolves.